Did Steve Yzerman make a massive mistake for the Detroit Red Wings? I wanted to talk about this idea here, not because this is one that we have talked about before, but because it's always intriguing to dive into what some Red Wings fans have to say about certain elements of the team's decision-making, isn't it? Now, before you go all haywire, no, we're not talking about the mistake that the Red Wings made of sending away a draft pick to get rid of Jake Wallman, nor are we talking about the idea as to whether or not trading for Quinn Hughes was a mistake. Instead, we are focusing on a former player in Detroit's system that is now doing some pretty honest work with the Utah Mammoth. Let's talk today about Kailer Yamamoto and whether or not Stevie Y made another fumble here. Yamamoto was 27 years old, 5'9", 179, a former first-round pick by the Oilers in 2017. The fact that a guy who's 5'9" could go in the first round back then was pretty indicative of the point production and the ceiling that a lot of people said Yamamoto had. I know, just a few years later, we ended up seeing Cole Caulfield go in the first round too, but the fact that Yamamoto went 22nd in 2017 was a pretty big deal when you consider the fact that he had so many points and a lot less height. Either way, Yamamoto continued producing like crazy in the WHL before inevitably becoming a full-time Oiler. He maxed out at 41 points in 81 games played. But then, you will see that his elite prospects list continues from Edmonton over to Seattle, to the Utah Hockey Club, the Tucson Roadrunners, and inevitably, the Utah Mammoth. The Red Wings are nowhere to be found, and that's because Yamamoto's time with Detroit was very short-lived. You think about it here, so on June 28th, 2023, the Detroit Red Wings ended up acquiring Kailer Yamamoto and Klim Kostin from the Oilers for future considerations. This was a trade that I was really big on, and if you check out this YouTube channel, you go back to June 29th, 2023, the Yamamoto-Kostin trade from Edmonton over to Detroit. This video was very positive. I was like, yes, this is a good swing. Nice, talented pieces coming over to Detroit for free. And then inevitably, the Red Wings bottom out, in fact. So, yeah, pretty interesting way to do your business. Get a guy for free, then buy him out, essentially just helping out Edmonton in the process. Klim Kostin was seen as the prize in that trade, but as we are seeing right now, Kailer Yamamoto, at 27 years old, fresh off of scoring 23 points in 59 games with Utah in the regular season, he's got 4 assists in 5 games this year in the playoffs. And you consider just the fact that he's been producing assists and he's been going out there doing some pretty good work, there's a lot to like out of Kailer Yamamoto these days. And it's why there was this post made on the Detroit Red Wings subreddit that I wanted to read for you here. Top Shoulder 1086 said, "Something has bothered me for a while. The Oilers traded wingers Yamamoto and Kostin to the Red Wings in a move that frees up some cap space for the Oilers. In exchange, the Oilers are receiving future considerations." Yeah, I know this was in 2023, but why would they have done this salary cap dump with nothing in return? Watching the Utah game, with Yamamoto playing steady, makes me wonder. He was placed on waivers for a buyout offer the day after the trade. What did the Wings get in return for any of this? I mean, if the trade included a second or a third, sure. Was it the Detroit Brass doing Ken Holland a solid? I'm just curious what the benefit was to the Red Wings, if maybe ownership was involved as a favor to Ken or whatnot. It still makes no sense to me because it made no sense for Detroit to spend this money for absolutely nothing in return. And you know what? That's very fair. In isolation, looking at what the Red Wings did, they acquired this guy for free, only to buy him out the next day. I mean, that's not really like proper business if you're a hockey team trying to operate in a capacity to win a Stanley Cup. That is more so helping the team that used to hold that player, right? The Edmonton Oilers were kind of trapped there. They sent away Yamamoto and Kostin, and then they're free. Let's dive into some of the comments over here because this is a pretty interesting idea. I see we're pivoting to a different third liner playing the fourth fewest minutes on his team now that Mantha and Soderblom are out. We really missed out on those 42 points over the last 3 years, that's for sure. It would have made all the difference. Who is after this if Utah loses Game 6? It's going to be Glendening in Philadelphia. Now, this comment is pretty sarcastic, essentially saying that, yeah, Red Wings fans love to focus on guys that used to be Red Wings, even in a very limited capacity, because obviously Kailer Yamamoto, with 42 points in 3 years, is the most amazing player on earth. Huge Nuge said, I'm an Oilers fan. We loved Klim Kostin. We wanted to keep him. He was a former first-rounder that had a good year for the Oilers. We thought he might actually turn into a legit player. Yzerman probably thought so too, so he took him on. Unfortunately, whatever he had going on in Edmonton didn't translate anywhere else. Something Oilers fans suspected, as we thought Klim was essentially ending his career by not re-signing with the Oilers. Also, we paid 2 seconds for Athanasiou and a 4th-round pick for an injured Mike Green. If Yzerman helped Kenny out, it would be payback for fleecing him a year earlier on these bad trades. That's fair too. We can say that it's even Steven now after that, right? Hey, you could send us all these draft picks, we'll give you Mike Green and Athanasiou, eh? And then maybe a year later we could help you out by buying out Kailer Yamamoto for you. How's that sound? That might have been, in terms of the value, the single worst move Yzerman has done outside of Wallman. We traded for Yamamoto and bought him out to acquire, and then extend the real prize of the trade, Klim Kostin. And then, after just 33 games and 4 points, we traded Kostin and gave up a pick to San Jose for an AHL career defenseman and a 7th-round pick. Why the heck did we acquire him and give up potentially valuable cap space in buying out Yamamoto just to dump Kostin 30 games into his extension? Just what was the purpose of any of this? That should have been a serious red flag in hindsight of how truly awful pro scouting was. Now that's a pretty bold take. And the top reply here says that Yamamoto is playing with 2 high-end players. I don't know who we would bump out of our top 6 for him, and he doesn't fit in our bottom 6. Plus, he makes the top 6 easier to play against. Just because a player sees a fit with an organization doesn't mean they do with all of them. Pro scouting is about seeing if there's a fit. We can't get hung up on Yamamoto. If this is his worst move, then we're laughing. So, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Watching Vegas and Utah in 2026 and seeing Kailer Yamamoto do the things that he's doing, is this a guy that, as a Red Wings fan, you look at and say, man, that's another one that got away, you know? We had him for a day, then we bought him out. That's improper. That's not the way to do it. We should have kept this guy. Is that your mindset? Or are you more of the mindset that was proposed here by Green Glass Fox that's essentially saying, yeah, old Red Wings will have success. So you can't just go out there and look at all of them and be like, yeah, they'd be amazing if they were still here. That line of thinking is dangerous. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Yamamoto, yay or nay? I hope you enjoyed this Frischer 9, and bye.